Hey friends, happy Thursday, 8th of July. Many blessings to you today. I'll give you a reflection on the daily readings. I invite you to click the link, read the readings prayerfully. That link's over on the side. And then turn off the screen. Spend a little bit of time rooting ourselves in our relationship with God and our deepest values before we move on to other things. This Sunday, July 11th, 4 to 5:30 p.m., you're invited to a listening session with Bishop Stephen at the SCM Parish Center, 624 Bridger. Knights of Columbus will provide food. The listening session is about Vision 2030 Matters, which is a strategic planning process that Bishop Stephen has been doing with the Catholic institutions in the state of Wyoming. Now he's encouraging parishes to kick off their own parish planning and their dreams for the future. So please be planning to join us Sunday, 4 to 5:30, SCM Parish Center. Knights of Columbus are providing food. There will be simultaneous translation available as well. We'll see you there. All right, first reading from the book of Genesis. Again, we are kind of skipping some highlights into the story of Joseph. The story of Joseph in the last, 10-ish? I can't remember. 10-ish chapters of Genesis is described as like the first novel in the world, the first story of a character and describing those sorts of things. I'm not sure exactly how they come to that sort of a claim or a realization. Here we have Joseph who is reconciling with brothers. And Joseph who is coming to insight. It was because to save lives that God brought me through all of these things. And it's the weird thing of how we oftentimes come to insight and wisdom as a result of living through painful and challenging sorts of times. And in the midst of it, we can oftentimes say, where is God in this? Why has God abandoned me? And then in hindsight, we recognize perhaps the ways that God was working, the ways that God was bringing us to deeper sorts of relationship, faith, holiness, service, sacrifice. So perhaps we might be praying into some painful experiences, maybe that we're having right now or that we've had, praying for the gift of insight and wisdom that all things might be integrated in the ways that God has worked for us. Maybe you read this story of brothers who have done terrible things, right? They betrayed, they sold, they lied, they talked about murder, right? These brothers are not great family members, that's for darn sure. And yet, in generosity and in grace, Joseph reconciles to them and is able to forgive them. And we aren't reading this in the way of like picking on ourselves and beating up ourselves like, oh, I need to forgive in order to make God love me. But instead, if we find that there is hardness of heart, hurt, resentment, pain in our own lives, that we would again turn that back to the Lord and ask for the grace of softness of hearts, reconciliation, the goodness of God to help penetrate and heal a bit more in our lives. The gospel. The gospel is a good one, I guess. I always just like saying that because, I don't need to be ranking the gospels. But frankly, you might just read the gospel through and ask what resonates with you as Jesus is sending out his apostles into the midst of the world. Jesus who gives some instruction about, receive, but also if a town doesn't receive you, don't stress out about it. Shake off your sandals and know that it'll be worse for that town than it was for some of the towns that are famous in the Bible for being the most punished by God, right? Like, don't stress out if you are not received. Take only what you need and don't overpack. What struck me, though, as I was praying with this, freely you have received, now freely give. And again, this is, to use the language that I trot out a fair amount, the worldview of abundance. Freely you have received, right? So maybe we root ourselves in that place where God has given us this gift of life, where everything about us is something that we have received. The good things, but also the painful experiences that have made us who we are. Freely we have received. The gifts and the skills that we have with which we navigate this world, freely we have received. The gift of faith and love and right relationship, freely we have received. Everything about us is a free gift. And now freely we are to give. That's the other side of the call. We receive freely and now we give freely. As I will oftentimes quote the words of our Western poet laureate George Strait, I ain't never seen a hearse with a luggage rack, right? Naked we came into this world, naked we will go forth, in the words of Job. That just in this brief moment do we have to receive and to give. Perhaps we could pray that that vision of the kingdom of God might continue to penetrate our hearts and our worlds. What in that gospel strikes you? What do you want to spend a bit of time praying with before you move on to other sorts of things? Read the readings prayerfully, turn off the screen, spend some time in quiet reflection. Happy Thursday, friends. God's blessings to you. Let's keep praying for each other, but especially praying for people that struggle, people that are having a hard time. God bless.